And we welcome you back to our Thursday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. I'm your guest host, Steve Hare. We're going to be talking with Richard DeRock, who's the general manager of Link Transit, which serves Chelan and Douglas counties. But first of all, the Transit District is celebrating a 25-year anniversary this year. And we thought we'd share with you a little video that the Transit District put together to kind of go back and chronicle the history of Link Transit. Here it is.
I'm taking it easy when I take the bus. Just relaxing my bones. No parking since I left my car at home. I found a green way to go. With Link I'll get there. Going to work, going to save the earth. I got a limo that's 30 feet long. I got a chauffeur who won't steer me wrong. Commuting is better than it ever was. I'm taking it easy when I take the bus. No door bumps, don't have to park, no gas pumps. I hardly ever fill my car. I'm gonna go far, with Link I'll get there. It's the way, take the bus and save. I got a limo that's 30 feet long. I got a chauffeur who won't steer me wrong. Commuting is better than it ever was. I'm taking it easy when I take the bus.
So there you have it, 25 years of Link Transit history compiled into a little 2.5-minute video there. Tell you what, a lot of recognizable faces in that video. Tom Green, Mayor Jim Lynch, some of the visionaries, I think, who saw the need for a public transit bus system here in the Wenatchee Valley. Richard DeRock joins me as my guest on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley this morning. Richard is the general manager of the transit agency. You've been with the district now for 16 years, did you say?
15.
15 years?
Yeah.
Wow. A lot of stuff has happened in that time.
It's been a great run. It's a wonderful little transit system, great community. It's really happy to be here.
Well, I'll tell you what, you come from LA. Weren't you with the transit metro traffic down, the metro bus system down there?
Actually, I ran the it's called Access Services, which is the elderly and disabled transportation system for all of LA County. Yeah.
Okay.
And, it was interesting place to say the least.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about that and how things have changed in the LA area over the past 15 years since you lived down there. But same holds true in the Wenatchee Valley. A lot of growth here, and we've seen the bus system grow. I saw in that little video marking the occasion for the 1 millionth bus rider. So where do we stand today?
About 26 million. We've gone up and down over the years. When the system was free fare in the late 90s, we were doing about 1,300,000 trips a year. Fell way down after we put in fares and had to cut service after the motor vehicle excise tax was repealed. Went down to about 400,000 boardings a year, and we're back to a little over 1 million boardings a year now.
And in that time frame, we've seen a shift in the power train for these buses. You've started the process of electrifying that fleet, haven't you?
We have, and actually we've gone in two different directions. Our light-duty fleet, we've converted to propane.
Oh.
And so we're actually the largest alternative fuel operator in the Northwest. About more than 50% of our fleet now is alternatively fueled.
What are the benefits of that?
Well, for the propane, cost is huge. Propane on a commercial contract is about 53 cents a gallon. There's a 50-cent federal tax credit, so that means they're paying about 3 cents a gallon. Sometimes they actually pay us to burn it. So it's wonderful from a cost standpoint. It also reduces, it increases the life of the engine, reduces emissions. Propane's about 5 or 6% cleaner than gasoline. On most pollutants, it's about 20% less greenhouse gas, and it's a byproduct of the fracking boom. Oil that's produced under a fracking process produces more propane, so there's a surplus currently, and that's kept the prices down. It's available, and it's very clean. So
very good. And the electric fleet, of course,
electric
really
fleet,
grown.
Yeah, it's we're at, well, we have 9 electric vehicles right now. We've got another 6 coming over the next year or so. Our first generation electric vehicles are the little green trolleys that have been around the valley now for almost 6 years. And that's been an experience, would be the best way of putting it. Being first is not necessarily always the best. We've learned a tremendous amount from it. It was interesting, I was talking to someone the other day about this, and they said, well, how would you describe it? And I say, it's sort of a successful failure. We
had the challenge with the batteries, I remember.
We've had challenges with batteries. We actually have had 3 different chemistries of batteries in the vehicle over the years. We achieved everything we said we were going to do. We got to the percentages of operations with our chargers. We've proven the technology. What we've run into is just reliability questions with the vehicles, and combination of issues that our vehicle vendors just couldn't resolve. So we're still using them, and we will continue to use them, but they don't get used as much as we would like. We can run them about half a day per vehicle, which limits their usability. And that's mainly because of an interaction between the fast charger and some circuit boards, that when we fast charge them, about once a week we were burning out a circuit board, and the vendor could never figure out what the problem was with that. And they say they're still working on it, but we haven't had that solution yet. So we run them half a day, and they work reliably at that level, but we start pushing beyond that, they start running into problems. But that being said, the savings in energy costs was so extraordinary, even at that, it really proves that that's a good fit for our valley with our electrical structure. And so our next generation buses, which people will start seeing on the street here pretty darn quick. We just took delivery of some 35-foot coaches, so a full-size transit bus. They're fully electric. Really, really nice pieces of equipment, really well designed. We're really confident these are going to be a good fit for our community, and they'll start operating probably in the next 2 weeks on our service over to East Wenatchee, between Wenatchee and East Wenatchee, and then we'll be spreading those out to other routes in the town.
Also, you've also developed an intercity trolley service between Wenatchee and East Wenatchee. How successful is that electric fleet been?
That one, well, the fleet's been a challenge.
Yeah.
The service has been really, really successful. The little trolley service, or the current service as we call it, is about 1/3 of our total ridership. It moves right at 350,000, almost 400,000 trips a year between the Wenatchee Valley Mall in East Wenatchee and the North Valley Mall here in Wenatchee, through downtown, through our commercial district.
Seeing good ridership?
Pardon?
Good ridership?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's particularly the route to East Wenatchee is in fact we had to go to larger vehicles because we were passing people up because of the popularity of the route, and then we added a new route in that service 2 years ago that goes past the Pybus Market and up to the college and back, and that one is working not as well as the other two, but it's again, meeting the objectives we set forward, and it's providing a direct access to the college, to Pybus, and it allows a transfer really effectively for college students who are coming from the Chelan or the Leavenworth area. The commuter buses that come in from those areas don't go up to the college because it would just change the route too much. So we've timed those buses so that they match the trolleys and allows a quick transfer to the college.
Fantastic. Well, we're seeing a tremendous growth in using the Link Transit buses and the trolleys through downtown, Wenatchee and East Wenatchee. Great service being offered by the Transit District. But again, celebrating 25 years of service, but now you're going through a long-range planning process, and the public's involved in that. In fact, they will be seeking, of course, your input on the strategic plan going forward. We're going to talk more about that with Richard DeRock with Link Transit as Wake Up Wenatchee Valley continues.
Looking for more choices and a better value in our area, Crown Furniture is the place to go. At Crown, you'll find the comfort and style that fits the needs of your family. We carry the brands you trust with the quality you desire at a price you'll love. And remember, free delivery set up in a hallway in our service area is just another way we show we care.
Merrill Davis and Charlie White, Ashley Wagner, Gracie Gold, and skating's newest superstars, 2017 national champions Nathan Chen and Karen Chen. It's the skating event of the year. Today's biggest names and breakout stars shine in an all-new show you won't want to miss. Stars on Ice is on sale now. Buy your tickets today at starsonice.com.
Join us for Street Talk and Other Stuff with Mike Magnotti on the NCWLIFE channel. This former police sergeant is plugged into not only the world of the streets, he's an actor and connoisseur of the arts. So join Mike and his guest for, well, Street Talk and Other Stuff. Mondays at 10 a.m., Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m., and Wednesdays at 5:30. It's Street Talk and Other Stuff with Mike Magnotti on the NCWLIFE channel.
Welcome back to the program. 46 minutes after the hour on a Thursday, May 11th, I'm Steve Hare, your guest host for Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. My guest in studio here is Richard DeRock. To my left, Richard is the, not the executive director, but the general manager of Link Transit, which operates the bus system and trolley system that serves Chelan and Douglas counties. Let's talk a little bit about the organization and what it's comprised of, how many employees you have, and let's talk a little bit about the budget and what fuels your fleet, basically.
Sure. So Link is, well, we're an organization of about 120 employees. About 70 of those are actual bus operators. On a daily basis, we put about 35 to 40 vehicles on the road. It varies depending on how many paratransit vehicles are out in service. And the fleet's made up of 61 total vehicles, few more than well, with electric vehicles, we have to have more backups, at least for the immediate time period. And the service, we operate about 400 hours of service a day, so that means about 400 bus hours out there. The first bus leaves the yard about 3:30 in the morning, and the last bus comes in about 10 o'clock at night. And then we have maintenance staff that have to fuel them and wash them and do the repairs on them. And they're there till about midnight, and again start up again in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. So it's not quite around the clock.
How many routes do you have?
We have 20 routes that operate throughout the region. Some of them not very frequent. Service to Waterville's 5 times a day, or to Malaga's 4 times a day. But our service to Leavenworth, for example, is 22 trips a day.
Okay.
Or the trolley routes in downtown are 44 trips a day, because they're very frequent at every 15 minutes.
A lot of commuter use, I guess, from Leavenworth and Chelan, don't you get?
About a third of our total ridership, about 300,000 people a day, commute from the Leavenworth or Chelan areas into Wenatchee. So that's a big chunk of our ridership. Trolleys are about a third of the ridership, and then the local circulation is what else we do.
There's also a paratransit service too?
Right, it's called a Link Plus service, and that's for people that have some form of physical or cognitive impairment, so that keeps them from riding the regular buses. And actually, one of the great successes we've had over the last 15 years is that service has gotten a lot smaller. And that's because we've been able to make our regular buses work better for people with disabilities.
Better handicap access.
And they've moved to the regular buses, and that's a huge cost savings. The cost of moving someone on a paratransit van is about $40 a trip, where we can carry someone on a fixed route bus anywhere from $2 to $7 cost. So it saves the taxpayers a lot of money that way, and it allows us to reinvest those resources in better service for the whole community.
Okay, you mentioned the taxpayers. Let's talk about the budget. What is your annual operating budget?
It's about $12.4 million a year. That's made up of a combination of about 70% of it is our local sales tax, which is 0.4 cents of the sales tax goes to Link Transit. We have about 20% of our budget is federal funds, which are allocated to us both as a formula based on our population, and then we get a ridership incentive because our system actually performs at a really high level. We're one of 11 systems nationwide that meet all 6 of the performance measures that are out there, and that almost doubles our federal funding, and so provides us a lot of service. State funds may be about 2% of our budget, and the rest is made up in fares.
Okay, but you also get some revenue from advertising on the buses too?
Actually, we don't.
You don't?
We just stopped our advertising program, and predominantly because it didn't generate enough revenue to offset the damage it was doing to the paint, which is sort of a strange situation. But the vinyl that goes on the bus catches road salts behind the vinyl, and it will start corroding the metal under the bus. And when we started figuring out what it was costing us to do the body repairs, we came to the conclusion we weren't earning enough off the advertising to cover the cost of the paint repairs we were having to do on the buses. And that doesn't, if you're not making any money, why are you doing it?
Okay, so if it's not working, don't use it. And if it's causing damage to the buses, that's...
Yeah, it makes sense in other environments. We just never could generate enough revenue off it to really pay a lot. And just as a sense, I think our best year of advertising, we had advertising on the buses for 14 years. We earned about $35,000 out of a $12 million budget. That's pretty small contribution.
Yeah. Richard DeRock, General Manager of Link Transit, joining us on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley, 52 minutes now after the hour. Transit agency celebrating 25 years of service here in Chelan and Douglas counties, and now you're plotting out the future. Let's talk about that strategic plan.
Sure. So we looked at our last 25 years and said, okay, Link was established to connect our communities. Our name was actually a big part of the original vision of the system, which was to connect the small towns here in north central Washington, to provide daily access for those people that don't have other choices, And that's a significant number. I don't know if most people recognize, but about 34% of the population of the state doesn't have a driver's license. For, sometimes because they're too young, maybe
Court ordered or something?
Court ordered,
Yeah,
they could be aged out. There are people who've just chosen not to. But that's about the same every place. Somewhere between 30 and 35% of the population doesn't drive. So public transit really, in smaller communities, tends to be aimed at that population. And to a great degree, that's what LINK was originally designed to do. And we have a really, really good, what I would call a lifeline system. It's designed for people that don't have those choices. Our commuter service does actually get choice riders, and we've actually done better there than I would expect. I think we've done really good service for that community. But one of the things we started raising was our community's changing. We're starting to see traffic congestion. We have a unique situation in Wenatchee where we only have 2 accesses into our community, and both of those bridges are effectively at capacity. The north end and the Wenatchee River Bridge is at capacity. The Cellar Bridge at the south end is getting close, and it won't be long before it reaches the capacity number. And what that means is it won't be free flow anymore. And as my wife told me yesterday, it wasn't free flow on the bridges yesterday. And that's going to be happening more and more. And so one of the questions we wanted the community to give us some input on is, should we be looking at perhaps changing our mission? Not giving up on the lifeline services for those who don't have choices, but should we be expanding to also try to deal with congestion, commute adjusting, providing services that are more attractive for people who have choices. And what that would mean would be higher frequencies of service, so you don't have to plan to ride the bus, more park and ride services, things that would attract people to park their car, take the vehicle into town, and take some pressure off of those roads.
I guess that is, in terms of winning the hearts and minds of the public out there, that's one of your main objectives and probably functions too, isn't it?
Well, it doesn't make sense to throw a bus out on the street if no one wants to use it. And I think we can have a role in reducing congestion. We can have a role in keeping the quality of life up in the community. But it's got to fit the lifestyle of our valley. It's got to fit what we want to do. I mean, what people want in their communities. And it doesn't make sense to try to force people to change things, and that's not our agenda. And really what we wanted to look at was, well, is it time for us to look at these things? And if we want to expand the service to meet those other needs in the community, that's going to require more resources. And that's not unusual. Of the transit agencies here in the state, the legislature has given the transit agencies the authority to impose local sales taxes with voter approval, up to 0.9 of a cent. When LINK was established, our sales tax was set at 0.4 of a cent.
Right.
And we're actually the only of the small urban systems that hasn't gone back to the voters to increase their taxes. Not saying we should, we actually are stable. We can continue operating our system the way we have at our current tax rate. But if we want to do more, that's a choice the community has. And so our outreach right now is been a twofold process. We started last year and asked the community, what do you want for your system? And they identified a lot of services that they thought they wanted to see. Actually, very strong support. And interestingly, it wasn't that different between non-users and users, what they were telling us they wanted. What we decided to go back and do is we've done a much more detailed survey this time, which we really encourage people to sign online, go onto our online version, which is at letsthinklink.org. And that survey says, okay, this is what you told us you wanted. Here's what it means in terms of cost. Do you still want it? If it's going to raise your sales tax $14 a year, is that something that's the value to you? I mean, does that really make sense? Or if you want even more service and it's $28 a year to provide that level of service, is that something that's a value to you and your family? Or to the people that, maybe your kids who use it to get to after-school sports, or a parent who uses it to get to the doctor and so forth. I mean, it's a question for the community of, if you really do want more, are you willing to pay for it, essentially, and is this the value that the community wants?
Well, you know, the local funding element of this is important, but I know that there's also some concerns about federal funding as well. I've attended enough Wenatchee Valley Transportation Council meeting to know about the problems and challenges that we face there. Public transit going forward, is there anything in the new administration or Congress that you're seeing that would threaten any of our federal funding?
Well, maybe. The administration's proposed budget did cut the capital grant program, which is the money that goes to fund things like the Sound Transit expansion, Amtrak. But that's not something we've really been able to take advantage of here in our valley. The formula funds that we use for operation weren't proposed to be cut at all. In fact, they were actually proposed to be slightly increased. So in the near term, I don't think there's much risk on the money that we take advantage of. One of the thoughts was if we were going to do something to focus more on the congestion market, that might require building things like a bypass lane to get around a congested spot, or enhanced transit stations, and we might have been able to use some of those funds. So there's a potential impact, but probably not as bad.
Richard DeRock joining us here on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley, giving us a little snapshot this morning of Link Transit. And of course, if you'd like to participate, I know you have a community survey going on right now. Can they log on to your website and learn more about that?
Absolutely. It's letsthinklink.org. We're trying to get as many responses as we can. I know our board is really interested in hearing from everyone, including people who don't think Link has much relevance to their life. We want the whole community to give us input.
Good deal. Keep that transit, keep those buses rolling in Chalida and Douglas County. Thanks for joining us, Richard.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley.